The Olmec legacy, the forgotten history that shaped the world. Imagine walking through a dense forest and suddenly encountering a colossal stone head sculpture, gazing at you with an enigmatic stare. These silent and imposing monuments guard the secrets of a civilization as ancient as the very myths that surround it. The Olmecs, the true architects of Mesoamerica, left a legacy that resonates to this day, although many are unaware of their existence. Who were these people? How did they manage to build such an advanced culture in a world still brutal and wild? What remains of their wisdom, scattered in symbols and structures that defy time? Throughout history, the Olmecs have been treated as an indecipherable enigma, briefly mentioned in history books but rarely recognized as the pioneers who paved the way for grand civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs. The truth is that their impact went far beyond their time. They developed concepts that would shape the cultural and spiritual identity of an entire continent, influencing everything from art to the very way Mesoamerican peoples understood the world. But if their presence was so significant, why are they now just a shadow in collective memory? Who benefited from this forgetfulness? The key to understanding this civilization lies in the traces they left scattered across the land. Mystical symbols engraved in jade, rudimentary writing systems, monumental sculptures, and an impressive trade network that extended over vast regions. And even more intriguing, the Olmecs' astronomical and architectural knowledge suggests a sophistication that defies expectations for such an ancient society. Could they have had access to knowledge that surpassed their time? What mysteries would these stones tell if they could speak? As we unravel these mysteries, we realize that the Olmecs were not just the first of Mesoamerica. They were the shapers of a tradition that would endure for centuries, a people whose worldview would echo in the culture of future civilizations. However, their history has been diluted, fragmented, and in many ways, obscured by dominant narratives. Was this omission a mere accident of history, or a reflection of control over the past that determines the present? In this video, we will explore the true legacy of the Olmecs. We will connect the dots between their achievements and the peoples that came after, questioning conventional versions and bringing to light the hidden grandeur of this civilization. Prepare for a journey through time, where stones speak, symbols reveal secrets, and history emerges from the shadows to claim its place. The mystery of origins. The history of the Olmecs begins shrouded in mystery. Who were they, and where did they come from? Their origins remain one of the greatest archaeological enigmas of Mesoamerica. There are no written records left by them, only vestiges of a civilization that was already sophisticated before the rise of the Maya and Aztecs. Archaeological studies indicate that the Olmecs flourished on the Gulf Coast of Mexico over 3,000 years ago, establishing imposing cities like San Lorenzo and La Venta. But what is most impressive is the speed with which they developed such an advanced culture, as if they already possessed knowledge inherited from even more ancient civilizations. The colossal stone heads, sculpted with meticulous detail, are the visual signature of this civilization. They suggest powerful leaders, perhaps warriors or priests, whose features express an unusual strength. But how did they manage to carve and transport basalt blocks weighing tens of tons without iron tools or draft animals? This skill indicates a surprising technical mastery for the time, something that challenges what we know about primitive civilizations. Beyond engineering, the Olmecs mastered innovative agricultural techniques. They created sophisticated drainage systems and cultivated a diversity of foods, ensuring not only survival but population growth. Agriculture sustained their cities and enabled the rise of an intellectual and spiritual elite that would shape Mesoamerican thought. But how did they acquire this knowledge? Who influenced them? The Olmecs were not an isolated people. Archaeological evidence shows that they established a vast trade network, exchanging jade, obsidian, and ceramics with distant peoples. This connection with different cultures suggests that they played a central role in the diffusion of ideas and practices that would later be absorbed by civilizations like the Maya. In other words, the Olmecs were not just pioneers, they were the foundations upon which other societies built their identity. And yet, even with all this influence, their history was almost erased. Who made them disappear from conventional narratives? What led to their downfall? The answer may lie in the very symbols they left behind. The secrets encoded in stones. The Olmecs may not have left books, but they inscribed their history in stone. Monumental structures and enigmatic sculptures point to a deeply spiritual belief system. Some inscriptions found suggest a proto-writing system, predating that of the Maya, indicating that the Olmecs may have been the first to record knowledge through graphic symbols. This completely changes the way we interpret their legacy. And if they were the true creators of the concept of writing in Mesoamerica? The Olmec glyphs found at archaeological sites are still being deciphered, but their images reveal intriguing patterns. Hybrid figures of humans and jaguars are common, suggesting the worship of supernatural entities, or the fusion between the human and spiritual worlds. The jaguar was a symbol of power and transformation, possibly representing the belief in shamanic leaders who could traverse spiritual realms. But did this spiritual practice fade over time, or simply evolve into the religions of the peoples that came after? Beyond religious symbols, the Olmecs created a complex architectural system. They aligned structures with astronomical precision, raising questions about their level of celestial knowledge. Did they develop a calendar based on solar and lunar cycles long before the Maya? And how did they acquire this advanced knowledge? Some evidence suggests they may have had a sophisticated mathematical understanding, directly influencing subsequent civilizations. The Olmec sculptures also reveal something even more unsettling: the presence of distinct facial features, different from traditional Mesoamerican indigenous peoples. Some theories suggest external influences, fueling debates about transoceanic contacts. But is this just speculation? Or is there concrete evidence that the Olmecs were influenced by other ancient civilizations of the world? These mysteries lead us to an even greater question. What was the true purpose of Olmec civilization? Were they merely a culture developed on their own, or part of a much older and more complex tradition that we have lost over history? The connection with future civilizations. If the Olmecs disappeared, why do their legacies continue to live on? The answer lies in the impact they left on the cultures that succeeded them. The Maya inherited their astronomical knowledge, the Aztecs absorbed their religious iconography, and even the Mesoamerican social structure was influenced by their hierarchy. In other words, the Olmecs did not disappear. They became the foundation for everything that came after. Olmec mythology also infiltrated future traditions. The concept of a universe divided into spiritual layers, the belief in serpent and jaguar gods, and even ritual sacrifices may have their roots in this primitive civilization. And if Olmec cosmology was not just belief, but a sophisticated system of understanding the cosmos, the very system of Mesoamerican governance may have been inspired by the Olmecs. They were the first to establish a dominant elite, formed by priests and rulers, a model that would persist for centuries. This raises the question: how did this structure emerge? Was it a natural evolution or a reflection of an even more ancient culture, transmitted through the generations? Even sporting practices, such as the famous Mesoamerican ball game, may have Olmec origins. The evidence indicates that they were the first to build ceremonial courts where games were not just competitions, but spiritual rituals. These details show that the Olmecs were not just an ephemeral civilization, but a central pillar in the formation of Mesoamerican identity. And if all this is true, why were the Olmecs left out of official history? Who would benefit from erasing them from the map? The enigma of their disappearance. Every great civilization comes to an end, but the decline of the Olmecs remains a mystery. Unlike the Maya or Aztecs, who were overthrown by invaders, the Olmecs simply disappeared. What happened? Some theories suggest drastic climate changes, depletion of natural resources, or even internal conflicts. Others, however, point to something more enigmatic, a paradigm shift that led them to abandon their cities. If the Olmecs were the holders of such advanced knowledge, did they simply choose to disappear? Olmec cities were covered by time, but their traces remain. Their symbols and structures still hold secrets waiting to be discovered. But for that, we need to rewrite the official narrative. The truth is that the Olmecs were never just an ancient people. They were visionaries, pioneers, and architects of the future. Their history did not end. it was merely forgotten. And now, it is up to us to bring it back to light. The true legacy of the Olmecs. The history of the Olmecs is more than a forgotten chapter of the past. It is the invisible root of everything we know about Mesoamerica. They were not just a lost civilization, but the architects of a cultural structure that would sustain entire empires for centuries. Their influence is in the symbols, the myths, the religious practices, and even in the way Mesoamerican peoples understood time and the cosmos. But if their impact was so profound, why were they relegated to obscurity? Perhaps the answer lies in the way history is written. For a long time, better-known civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs dominated historical accounts, while the Olmecs remained a distant shadow, mentioned only as an enigmatic and little-understood civilization. But recent archaeological discoveries reveal something different. The Olmecs were not just the first. They were the innovators, the holders of original knowledge. And the erasure of their history may have been convenient for those who rewrote the dominant narrative. The most fascinating thing is that the Olmecs not only left monuments, but also created a way of thinking that endured. Their astronomical knowledge may have been the basis for the advanced calendars used by the Maya. Their political and priestly structure may have inspired the governance of the great Mesoamerican city-states. Even their artistic style, their sculptures in jade and basalt, continued to influence indigenous art for centuries. Nothing that came after was built without the foundation left by the Olmecs. But perhaps the greatest lesson we can learn from this civilization is the resilience of knowledge. Even with their culture fragmented by time, their ideas never died. They camouflaged themselves, evolved, and were reborn in new forms. This makes us question, how many other legacies have been erased from history for not fitting the dominant narrative? How many mysteries are still buried under the earth, waiting to be revealed? Now that you know the true history of the Olmecs, the question remains, what will be the next secret to emerge from the past? If this civilization that shaped an entire continent was forgotten, how many others are waiting to be rediscovered? Time may erase faces and ruins, but it can never erase the truth. It is time to rescue this history. The Olmec civilization did not disappear. It lives in every trace of culture that came after. And now, it lives in your memory as well. The history of the Olmecs is not just a tale about an ancient civilization. It is a reminder of how time can hide essential truths. What was forgotten does not always disappear. Sometimes, it merely awaits rediscovery. The Olmec influence lives on in the cultures that inherited their wisdom, in the silent stones that still guard their secrets, and now in your own understanding of this lost civilization. But are we ready to recognize the grandeur of a people that history almost erased? And more importantly, can we learn from them before other legacies are condemned to oblivion? If there is one thing the Olmecs teach us, it is that knowledge does not belong to a single era. It transforms, travels through time, and finds new ways to exist. The Olmecs created foundations that sustained entire empires, and yet, for a long time, they were treated as a footnote in history. But now, with each archaeological discovery, with each piece of jade unearthed and each enigma deciphered, the truth comes to light. And the truth is this: without the Olmecs, Mesoamerica would not have been what it was. Without them, perhaps the history of the world would have been different. And if this tells us anything, it is that we need to question the narratives handed to us. How many other civilizations have been forgotten? How many stories are waiting to be told? The past is not just in the ruins, but in us. It is in what we choose to remember and what we allow to be lost. And if the Olmecs showed us anything, it was that the true power of a civilization lies not only in what it builds, but in what it leaves for the future. It is up to us to decide whether we will ignore this legacy or continue unraveling its mysteries. But this journey does not have to end here. Now that you know the truth about the Olmecs, how about helping to spread this knowledge? Share in the comments what surprised you the most in this story, and which other mysteries of antiquity you would like to see explored. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey through time. Discover new stories that challenge everything we think we know, and leave your like so that more people can access this content. The Olmec civilization may have been forgotten by many, but today you helped bring their history back to life. And perhaps, just like the Olmecs, you too are shaping a legacy that will echo into the future.